All right, well, I'm going to share my screen with you, and thanks for the invitation to speak. Pat asked me to speak a bit about economic development, so that's what I'm going to do today. It's really good to see a lot of you. I haven't seen you in a long time, so lots of familiar faces. So give me just a minute here to share my screen. Okay, can you see that now? Okay, great. So let's see if this works. So I'm going to talk about economic development and then how it's changed because of COVID, but I'm going to go back to early 2000. And I worked on this with Alan Kiger before he retired, and we took this through the Community Improvement Corporation, which is the board that's responsible for economic development in the city of Oxford. And our vision really is to build a strong economy that is viable year-round. We know that here in Oxford, we have a feast or famine economy where when the students are here, things are great. When the students are gone, things are slow. And one of our long-term, like our vision in the sky goal is how could we have a stable, good economy year-round? And then our value statement, these are important to me because these are kind of the building blocks to what we look for. And that is businesses that are locally owned, encourage family residency, that are inclusive and diverse, and support a sustainable practice. So these are things that we really value here in Oxford, and it's an important part of our business community. And way back in January, these were our goals: to encourage business startup and provide a supportive business culture. And under that, we were really going to look at our own practices, our own procedures, and how do we help people get to yes, right? So instead of our rules and regulations being cumbersome or roadblocks, we wanted to help people to be able to start a business here in Oxford. Then our second one was business recruitment and job creation. And with this, we really had a lot of traction early in the year. I see Lisa Dankovich on the call, so we'll talk about some things that we worked on together with Miami University, trying to really look at bringing business into Oxford. The next was encouraging residency in and around the city of Oxford. This is in other circles called workforce development, workforce retention. But our goal was to have people who work in Oxford to live in Oxford, and working with various HR departments, whether it be Miami University or Talawanda or Schneider Electric or anyone, to say, hey, Oxford's a great place to live. And the reason we value this highly is when you live here, you care about here. And I like to joke that decisions are made on baseball fields and soccer fields, on scout meetings. When your family is involved and they're playing soccer together and you're sitting on the sidelines, you'd be like, oh yeah, I wanted to talk to you about this, or oh hey, I was thinking about this. And it builds bridges between people, and I think that's just so important, and it's an important goal for us. And then to develop an infrastructure for sustainable growth. And this was everything from, do we have enough sewer lines? Do we have enough internet bandwidth? Do we have the infrastructure needed here to help our businesses be here for the long haul? And we really wanted to start digging into what do we need to develop here in Oxford. And so early in the year, this is the Elm Street Building, and I worked really closely with Lisa on what could we do with this empty building. It's big, it has potential to be beautiful, we have some amazing ideas, and boy, did we start rolling. We really started looking at funding sources. We put in a capital budget request to the federal government, to the state government. We went to DC, and we spoke with the small business committee about bringing the idea of an incubator or a hub like this to a rural community. And what did it look like in a rural town compared to a large city? And with Lisa's connections, we went and we met with Ready, we met with Startup Sensi, we met all different kinds of models that we could bring to Oxford. And it was such an exciting project to work on. And we had a lot of traction. And then, COVID hit, because all of those visits and going to DC and writing all those grants, that was in February. And we got back, and literally within weeks, it was, I mean, as you guys know, pandemonium. I mean, it was like things were shutting down, students were going home, my kids were home from school. It was just a lot of chaos. And so we had to set up a detour, and we really had to shift gears. And, you know, as assistant city manager, just, okay, I'm now in charge of the COVID response for the city. And so it was everything from how do we help our employees, and how are we going to handle our own staff, to how are we going to work with our public and communicate with our public. And so my attention really switched gears to that direction for a while. And then after that initial crisis was over, we started talking about, okay, well, how do we help our businesses succeed and stay open? Because they're such an important part of who we are. Our businesses are what make Oxford Oxford. You know, people literally travel here to go to Bagel and Deli and to visit the places that Mac and Joe's, and places they really care about. And so we kind of looked at what other cities were doing, and we saw what Hamilton did with their gift card program and thought, wow, that's just, and they have a really big and vibrant chamber of commerce. And they really partnered well together to buy, you know, $300,000 worth of gift cards from their local businesses. And then the chamber's working to resell it. And our chamber has been wonderfully supportive, but it's one person. And so we really looked at, well, how do we do it? And so what we did is we used our Community Improvement Corporation. So the city of Oxford gave $200,000 to the Community Improvement Corporation to then go out and buy gift cards from all of the businesses who wanted to sell them to us. And so we had a small application process. They had to be a brick and mortar business. They had to have under 50 employees. They had to be in Oxford, Ohio. And so we got those forms in, and then we started buying all these gift cards from them. It was a process. I've learned a lot. So we bought all the gift cards, and then you see these red cards, like we literally then had to make 20,000 gift cards to then sell to the public and build a website to then sell those. And that took us a few months to do. We work with some Miami students through meetings like this on Zoom and Google Hangouts to help us build an e-commerce site. We had to upload all the cards in there, but it is up and working. And so if you would like to buy gift cards from local business, we'd love for you to do so. They make great gifts. They're good for several years. And it's cityofoxford.org/gift cards. And I can email that to you later so you can send a link out. But it's going really well. And I just have to say a huge thank you to John Buckholtz and all of the businesses. John is the one who's actually fulfilling all the orders. So if you place an order, John goes and pulls the gift cards from the vault and puts a label on an envelope and runs to the post office. And he's been doing that every day. And so that's great. What's great about this is once we resell these to the public, it'll go back into that Community Improvement Corporation fund for the purpose of business support in the future. So that's our goal behind it. And we really hope that we can support our businesses in the long term from the roots of this program. So that was the first program we implemented. The second one, this is a little fuzzy, but it's the revolving loan fund. We've had this for a really long time in the city, and it's been used for years and years and years for business startup to help businesses begin. And it was for job creation. But the rules that established this loan fund also allowed for job retention. We've just never used it that way before. And so we went back to council and we said, let's make some small emergency loans that can be used for job retention. And so we created $5,000, super simple, like one-pager application for people to apply for a zero interest $5,000 loan just to help them get by. It is a loan, it does have to be paid back, but we did make it zero interest and as easy as we could. And so we did work on that. And that's still going on. And then finally, I spent a fair amount of time trying to help educate about the Small Business Administration loans and the CARES Act, and just really point our business owners in the right direction. I will say our Chamber of Commerce did a great job with this too. And so really just trying to help people apply for those payroll loans and the CARES Act and get the help that they could so that they could sustain during this really challenging time. So that was kind of our direct support. And then we really looked at our programming of what else could we do in the city of Oxford that would help our businesses. So this has been something that I think a lot of you know that I was at Enjoy Oxford before I came to the city. And so I've actually been working on this outdoor refreshment area for 3 years. So I've been with the city now for a year, but 2 years before that, I was researching outdoor refreshment areas. I was going to classes on it. I was looking at legislation. And then when COVID hit, that was the fuel we needed to kind of get this going and get it done quickly. And so we did pass this, and it's in operation now, which just means that you can get a refreshment, an alcoholic beverage from participating bars uptown, and then you can walk over to the park and enjoy a beer or a glass of wine while you sit and space out outside. And I've heard people say that they love it. We haven't, knock on wood, had any trouble with it. But I have heard of people who bring up lawn chairs on Friday nights. They all get a beer from someplace, and then they sit in a giant circle in the park. And that's exactly what we want people to be doing, is participating in our, supporting local business, but still spreading out and being safe. And so we think that this has been a pretty good development. I feel like I'm going really fast, but I'll take time for questions at the end. So then the other thing we try to do is, we're not allowed to have events. We're not allowed to have festivals because that's not allowed under the governor's orders. And so there's been no summer concerts. We canceled Porsche car show. We've canceled 4th of July parade. But what we tried to do was close the road to create a giant pedestrian mall where people could just walk through uptown, really spread out. Businesses could bring their tables and chairs out on the road and the sidewalk and just really have the space to spread out and increase their occupancy. And so we tried it on June 26th. And I'll tell you, I was a hot mess. I was so nervous that either no one was going to come and everybody was going to be mad at me for closing the road, or we're going to have thousands of people and a mob, and I was going to be responsible for people dying. And so that's, that was my internal pendulum swing. And then what ended up happening was a perfectly lovely evening with probably several hundred people who spread way out, and people wore masks. Not everyone, but a lot of people did. And I felt like it did what I wanted it to do. And we got a lot of emails from businesses that they saw an increase in sales and they were really thankful for it. So after talking with the health commissioner and kind of really talking it through, we're going to do it again. Now we've passed a mask legislation, so masks are mandatory unless you're sitting and enjoying a beverage or eating. Other than that, you should really have a mask on. We've increased seating, so we brought some extra picnic tables and things like that uptown to allow people more space to sit. But we're going to try it again. We're going to try it again on July 31st. And this image here says August 28th. But we've got some feedback that they really don't want to do it when the students are here. There's some fear that the crowds will be just too big. And so we'll do it again on August 7th, which is right before we believe the students will start to move back. And of course it can change, but that's our plan and we're going to try it. And it's just a way for people to get out and walk around uptown and see people from a distance and support local business. So that's something else we're trying. And I'm a big believer in just let's try it, right? Let's try it and let's try something to support our business. If it doesn't work, we can adapt and change. And I want to be responsible. I want to keep people healthy, but I also am not willing to not try things. And so that's kind of where I'm coming from as we approach these ideas. So if you have other ideas, email me. I love hearing them. So, and then really what we're looking at going forward is what's going to be our new normal? I want to get back to those goals that we talked about at the beginning of my presentation. And they're there. They're good goals. We have really strong action steps under them. The things we're going to do. I'm getting some interference. But we'll get back to those goals. And in the meantime, we're going to keep supporting our businesses the best we can with COVID in place. And so that is really my presentation for you today. And I am happy to answer any questions.